I encourage you just to sit quietly and rest in the heart. This is something that we practice in the monastery. Every morning we have the morning chanting, we gather together. We recollect the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha. These three beautiful jewels, or refuges. Buddha, the truth, our capacity for seeing clearly, for understanding things as they are. Our conditioned mind always distorts things. We've learned how to see things in a particular way that's not always in accordance with reality. Whereas the Buddha mind, the Buddha, that which sees clearly, sees in accordance with reality, understands things as they are. And this is something that each one of us, we have the capacity to realize, to live through the Buddha mind rather than believing quite so much in our ideas about everything. Our ideas about who and what we are and what we need to do in our lives and so on. We take refuge in the Buddha mind, we take refuge in that which sees clearly, which understands things as they are. We take refuge in Dhamma, teachings that were offered by the Buddha to guide us, to guide our awareness, direct our awareness, to look, to observe the truth, reality, as it unfolds moment by moment within our own experience. Dhamma, which is timeless, always has been, always will be. Here, now. To be experienced individually by the wise. When we're wise, when we direct our awareness to what we can know right now, in that way we live in Dhamma. We make the Dhamma our life, the Dhamma our refuge. We can only experience Dhamma here and now. It's not something we can put off till next week. It's not something that we experienced long ago that we can remember. It's something we have to taste right now in this moment. Whatever this moment is offering us. On retreat, we live in very protected environment, very protected circumstances. And there's a lot of encouragement to attune to Dhamma. This is a good thing. And we need to continue that kind of awareness, learn how to continue it, to extend it into every aspect of our life, even when conditions are not so favourable, even when we're with people who have no clue about Buddha Dhamma Sangha, even when we're in very situations of conflict, deprivation, massive problems. This refuge in Dhamma is always there, always inviting us. Ehipasiko, come and look, come and see. wherever we are, whatever we're doing, the Dhamma is there. Ihipasiko. Come and see, take a look. So during this time of retreat, we have an opportunity to experience this directly, and to learn how to, skills of attuning to Dhamma, to make it something that is completely real, more real than anything else in our lives. So we cultivate the habit, skillful habit of attuning to Dhamma. This habit that we continue to foster, to develop, even at times when we're not on retreat. A lifelong opportunity, a lifelong privilege to live in Dhamma. And we also reflect on the disciples of the Buddha, the Supatipanno, Ujjupatipanno, Savaka Sangho. Savaka, those who hear, those who listen, those who draw close and attend to the teachings, listen carefully and apply them in their own lives. Just as each one of us has done, we've heard teachings, we've been interested, and we come back for more. Because we're interested, we appreciate how this teaching, this guidance of the Buddha can support us in our lives, can help us to live more lightly, more joyously. And even when things are really difficult and confusing, we practice Ujjupatipanno, we go straight to the suffering, straight to the dukkha, understanding that, seeing that it's not so much the conditions around us that are the cause of dukkha, but it's our reaction to them, our struggle with them. That's where we get stuck, that's where we get enmeshed, pulled into the web of dukkha, sticky web. It goes round and on forever. The web of samsara, endlessly wandering on. Unfortunately for us, the Buddha and his disciples have discerned the way out from that sticky web. Going right to the centre, right to the point of the struggle, where the letting go can happen. Where we can experience a deep sense of inner ease and balance, even in the midst of the most confusing and difficult circumstances. We have the capacity to see clearly, to discern the skillful response to whatever we may be experiencing, rather than simply reacting, grasping onto what we like, holding tightly for fear of losing it, trying to get rid of, trying to struggle with the things that we don't like. This is the habitual, the normal response. But the Buddha has taught us a special way of responding, which is going right to the point. Where's the struggle? Letting go. Here, now. So we reflect, we recollect these refuges at the start of the day. These refuges that we can attune to, that we can live in. And when we forget, when we get confused or pulled off course or lost in some memory of long ago or some exciting plan for the future or some worry about the future challenges and so on, we just come back. The present moment is always here. We can always attune to this moment as we experience it here and now. So in doing this chanting, it's a very useful preparation for the day ahead. Rather than waking up and thinking, oh dear, another day, how am I going to manage? Or, God, this is going to be exciting. Any kind of anticipation, dreading or excited, doesn't matter. We come back. How is it right now? What's happening here, now? Recollecting the refuges, the triple gem. So I suggest we sit quietly for half an hour or so, just contemplating these things, and then I'll offer some formal instruction in meditation. So we'll sit for 20 minutes just quietly together. So I'd like to share some reflections, instructions on meditation, basic meditation. And as you've heard, I've been really emphasizing that the Dhamma is something that we experience here and now, in the present moment. And as I see it, our meditation practice, the aim of our meditation practice is to support us in cultivating that quality of presence. So learning how to be here, now. One of the pitfalls, I would say, in meditation is partly based on the way that we've been educated, because our whole lives are always about preparing for something in the future. And I have to study really hard in order to pass the exam. So the study is one thing and the exam is the other. I have to do really well in order to get a good reference so I can get a good job. I have to make myself look very beautiful and attractive so I can find a good husband or a good wife. We're always doing something in order to get something in the future. And so it's quite natural that when we sit down to meditate, we sit down with the idea of, I'm going to do my breathing practice or my body sweeping or whatever practice in order to realize some special experience, to experience some bliss or some calm or total liberation. Always this idea of doing our meditation in order to get something. And I don't know how many of you have come across Thich Nhat Hanh, a very well-known Vietnamese monk who has a centre in France. And one of his most significant teachings is about washing up. And how so often when we do the washing up, we do the washing up in order that the washing up can be done. But really, if we're clever, we can do the washing up just to do the washing up. Just to have the experience of washing up. So in the same way, this meditation practice is, it has its own fruit in the moment. It's not something that we do in order to get something, but it's something that we experience the fruits of moment by moment as we practice. In some ways, it's like a relearning, like as little babies. Babies don't have to think about whether they're going to breathe or not. Little kids don't think about whether they're going to breathe or not. They just breathe and they're completely there with whatever it is that they're doing. But then somewhere along the line, maybe when we were 7 or 8, we began to think about the future and preparing for the future. And we forgot how to just enjoy the present. So this is kind of like a re-education for us, learning how to enjoy just being present. So although meditation is essentially very, very simple, just being present, what could be more simple than that? Because of the way that our minds have been conditioned, it's not always so easy. We learn how to do things in a certain way with a particular attitude, a particular aim. And so we tend to bring that to our meditation, rather than just resting, relaxing with things as they are. So please don't feel discouraged if your mind is constantly leaning into the future or getting stuck on something in the past, some memory or regret or something that you did really well. You know, the mind can go back to all kinds of things. But just see that this is just the way that we've been programmed, and we're now in a process of recognizing that, coming to appreciate that, to see that that's what's happened, and to recondition the mind, reprogram the mind, learning how to be present. And the first object that I usually teach is to be present with the breath. In fact, first of all, what I will do is I'll give a little bit of a guided contemplation to support the body in finding a comfortable posture and releasing tension. We'll go through the body, first of all, just systematically relaxing. And then the encouragement will be to focus on the breath as it's happening. Not some idea about the breath, not how it should be, but how it actually is. And right from the start I'll say that if you find it helpful to use a word or a phrase as an additional support for the awareness of the breath, you're very welcome to do so. Some people like to use a mantra, like a holy word. Like in Buddhism, often we suggest the mantra Buddho, Bud as you breathe in, Dom as you breathe out. But also, you may prefer to use some secular word, let go, or here as you breathe in, now as you breathe out. So I offer that as an option, if you would like to use that when I introduce the breathing practice. Others of you may prefer just to be with the sensations of the body breathing. It really doesn't matter, but the important thing is to recognize the importance of presence and to see it as a way of just repeatedly bringing the mind back. Wanders into the future, so you bring it back. Wanders into the past, you bring it back. Always with an attitude of patience, kindness, and a little bit of firmness. No messing. Not tomorrow, not in the next 5 minutes. Come back now. Come back now. So we're not going to beat ourselves up or punish ourselves for wandering off. It's not you give a smack every time you go into the future or into the past. It's more just, okay, come back. Come back. Come on, back here. Just keep re-establishing that present moment awareness. It's amazing how many times we have to do it, isn't it? I don't know about you, but even now, I've been a nun 40 years, and I still have to keep coming back, keep reminding myself. The mind is very, very slippery. In fact, the Buddha said that the mind is the most difficult thing to train. Very slippery. And you may find sometimes it settles beautifully. Sometimes you come and you just, with the breath, and everything is wonderful. and you think, I'm really getting somewhere, my practice is going really well. I want to have an arhat yet. And then the next time you sit down, and it's all over the place. Maybe I haven't made so much progress as I thought. Oh, never mind. Come back. Come back. Keep coming back. Keep beginning again. I always think it's very important to enjoy the practice, because sometimes, because it is a bit humiliating. After all these years, and I still can't focus my breath, I still can't be with the breath. And we can think, oh, I'm a hopeless case, I'll never be any good. What would they think if they knew how hopeless I was? We can have those kind of thoughts. So I'd encourage you to try to find ways to encourage yourself. Keep it light. Enjoy it. Don't feel too upset if the mind isn't quite as peaceful as you would like it to be. And if it is peaceful, then enjoy that, but don't grasp onto it. This is how it is right now, and tomorrow it may be different. So let's find a good posture so that you're sitting nice and straight, on the floor if you can, cross-legged if you can, and otherwise on a chair. The important thing is to be pretty comfortable, not comfortable in a too relaxed a way so you're falling asleep, and it's not we're not on the beach resting in the sunshine, but we're sitting with an attitude of alertness, attentiveness. We're curious, interested. So finding a nice upright posture. You might need more cushions underneath you, I don't know. So take a bit of time to feel a position where the body is naturally supported in an upright position. The body is quite well designed. There's a sort of curving in the back that helps it to sit up nicely. So we find that nice upright position, nicely balanced, not tipping forwards or backwards or to one side or the other. You might want to move your shoulders a little bit, just to ease out the tension. And you may like to sit with the eyes open, or you may prefer to close the eyes. I usually have my eyes closed in meditation, but if I'm feeling very sleepy, then I open. But you find what's comfortable for you. Eyes closed means that there's a little bit less distraction, a little bit less visual. You don't have visual distraction. Still have plenty of mental distraction, but the visual distraction at least is not there. So when we have the eyes closed or the gaze lowered, then we bring the awareness into the body. So just notice how the body is feeling right now. You can consider, well, how do I know that I have a body? What are the signs? What am I experiencing through the bodily sense? Maybe a sense of warmth. We can also feel a sense of pressure, like where we're sitting, contact with the chair or the floor, cushion. Bring awareness to that. This is like our foundation. Bringing awareness to the trunk of the body, rising up from the base. Rather like the trunk of a tree. It has its own shape, its own form. This wonderful trunk which contains so many vital organs, protected by the rib cage, the pelvis, backbone. Then we're aware of the neck, and then we're aware of the head. Just kind of perched on the top. You can be aware of the crown of the head pushing up. So it's a kind of pushing up through the crown, pushing down through the base of the spine. A sense of alignment. And then I'm going to just gently guide our awareness around the body, relaxing, releasing tension from different parts of the body. So I like to imagine that I can breathe in the energy of well-being, breathe in through the heart center, and with the out-breath I direct that energy of well-being through the different muscles of the body, relaxing, soothing, softening. I usually begin with the head, with the scalp. So the top of the head, the sides, the back of the head. This may feel quite tight to start with. Skin stretched across the skull. As we gently breathe through the muscles of the scalp, you can actually feel it loosen and soften. Feel it relax. And let the awareness come to the front of the head, what we call the face. This face that we can become so concerned about, how it looks, how it appears. And for this time, this is something we really don't need to concern ourselves with, not one bit. We can let the face soften. As we gently breathe through the muscles of the forehead, around the eyes, cheeks, mouth, letting the face soften, so that there's no particular expression. Just a sense of softness and ease. Then we notice the shoulders. How are they? Often our shoulders tighten and hunch up without us even realizing it. And during this exercise, we just gently allow the breath to release all of the tension from around the shoulder area, so that the shoulders drop. No longer hunched up, no longer struggling or trying to achieve anything in particular, just a sense of ease around the shoulder area. And as we do this, we may become aware of the weight of the arms, hanging off the end of the shoulders. Breathe down through the upper arm, around the elbow and the forearm, the wrists, the palms, the fingers. Allowing the hands to rest loosely on the knees or in the lap, whatever's most comfortable for you. Next, we bring awareness to the trunk of the body, beginning with the chest area, the upper part of the trunk. Breathing in a sense of ease and well-being, with the out-breath, breathing out through the heart center, allowing a softening and opening. Breathing away that feeling of tightness or constriction in the heart center that sometimes we feel. Next, we attend to the solar plexus. This is the middle part of the body, where sometimes we experience a sense of tightness or agitation when we're frightened or angry or upset, even when we're excited about something, that kind of fluttery feeling. So we attend to that now and notice how it is. We allow the breath to soften around the solar plexus area. And then we come down into the lower abdomen, the belly. And we take a few much deeper, slow, easy breaths, filling the whole body with this lovely air energy. Breathing out from the belly, from the lower abdomen. Allowing these lovely deep breaths to bring a sense of well-being, a sense of gladness and joy into the whole of our being. A sense of ease. We breathe down through the legs, setting the legs at ease, releasing tension from the thighs, from the muscles around the knee joint, calves, ankles, feet. And this can be very helpful if you're feeling pain, discomfort in the knees. Just to attend, to relax, to soothe and soften in that area. Often just this is enough to release any discomfort. And if the discomfort persists, you're very welcome to gently change position. But first, relax. Allow the legs to soften. Finally, we attend to the back part of the body, the muscles around the spine. Gently breathing through, releasing tension from the muscles around the spine, beginning at the base of the skull and little by little working down through the neck area, releasing tension. The back of the chest, the back of the rib cage. Releasing any sense of tension or tightness there. Coming down to the back of the waist, and right down to the base of the spine. So that the whole body is nicely supported, nicely upright, with a sense of poise and balance, without any extra strain or tension. We continue to be aware of the breathing of the body, taking time to experience this directly, noticing how the chest cavity expands, drawing the air into the lungs, and then to notice how the air is compressed out with the out-breath. Finding our own rhythm of breathing, our own natural rhythm of breathing. We breathe in, and then notice maybe a slight pause, and then when it's time for the body to breathe out, we breathe out. The body knows how to do it, even without us paying attention, but during this time of meditation we attend closely to the experience of the body breathing. Some of you may have a technique of focusing at the nostril, or focusing at the belly, or aware of the entire passage of the breath from beginning to end. And I invite you just to continue with what you're used to, enjoying the sensation of the body as it breathes comfortably, easily, aware of the in-breath from beginning through the middle to the end, to the point of change, momentary pause, and then the out-breath, beginning, middle, end, point of change, and then the next in-breath. If there are thoughts, we just leave them to one side. We don't need to attend to those right now. We make this bodily process, this breathing process, we make this the focus of our awareness. This is what we attend to. As it's happening, right here, right now, within our very own bodies. This body breathes in, this body breathes out. And we can know that. We can know that directly. With each moment, each breath. If at any point you notice that the awareness has been hijacked by some fascinating plan or some interesting memory, and that you've lost awareness, lost this present moment awareness, pulled into the past or into the future. As soon as you recognize that this is what's happened, stop the movie, come back. Come back with a sense of ease, a sense of kindness, and a sense of firmness. Come back. Stay here, stay with the breath. Enjoy this breath. Enjoy this moment of breathing in. Enjoy this moment of breathing out. Let go of the movement. Try not to let the mind go drifty. You notice that the mind is a bit drifty, a bit dreamy. And it's time to put attention into the posture. Make sure you're sitting up nice and straight. If you're feeling very sleepy, then open the eyes. Look at the light. I'm going to ring the bell in just a moment. So a chance for 2 or 3 more deep, aware breaths. Breathing in and breathing out. Just in your own rhythm. Really enjoying that sensation of the body breathing. I'd like, if I may now, to give a little bit of instruction in walking meditation. This is something that's very much a part of my practice. I like doing walking very much, and in the Thai forest tradition, which I'm affiliated with, it's one of the main practices. In fact, some people will walk for hours rather than doing a lot of sitting. One of the things I like about walking meditation is that it translates very, very easily into our everyday life. Because for all of us, we walk around from place to place during the day. And often, well, I don't know about you, but often when I'm walking, if I'm not mindful, the mind can very easily go into a kind of thinking about all kinds of things. You know, remembering some conversation or worrying about something that I've got to do. It's what the mind does. Whereas once we begin to develop and to appreciate the walking meditation, we learn how to walk with mindfulness. We learn how to be present as we walk, rather than constantly thinking and planning or remembering or being caught up in things that are maybe not particularly helpful to us. So, in our particular tradition, we walk at a normal pace. So there are traditions, and some of you may be familiar with these, where the walking is very much slowed down. It's a kind of slow motion experience. And that certainly has a usefulness in building up a very strong samadhi. But it's less useful if you think about translating it into everyday life. You don't want to walk along the street in slow motion. People will quickly come along and lock you up somewhere. So we try to walk at a normal pace. So normally we find a place we can walk back and forth for between 20, 15, 30 paces, something like that. And if we don't have as much as that space, if we can only walk for 3 or 4 paces or 5 or 6 paces, that's also fine. Personally, I like a longer path if it's available. So we begin at one end of the path and we walk to the other end of the path. When we get to the end, we stop, turn around and walk back again. In fact, I'll demonstrate. I always like to demonstrate because I think it's so simple. If I just explain it, some people think, well, it can't be that simple. So I'll show you how I do it. And I'll try and speak louder so that the people who don't hear so well can hear when I do my demonstration. Oh, okay, thank you. That's good. So, can you hear? So, I'll begin just at the edge of the podium here. That's the start of my path. And I take a little bit of time to bring awareness to the body standing. Just as at the start of the sitting meditation, we took time to bring awareness to the body sitting. With walking practice, we begin by standing, aware of our contact with the floor or with earth, wherever we are. Standing with the body nicely upright. I usually have my eyes open for walking meditation. It's not obligatory, but it's often helpful. And I look along the path, relax the shoulders, the arms, aware of the feet. Keep the face nice and soft. And then when I feel ready, I begin to walk. I walk to the end of the path, and then I stop. Pause for a moment. When I'm ready, I turn around. Bring awareness to the body standing, and then when I'm ready, I walk back again. When I reach the end, I stop, pause, turn around. When I'm ready, I walk back again. So, very simple. Very simple, but you may find that the mind will wander. I find that my mind can wander spectacularly when I'm doing walking meditation. I think it's partly because we're a little bit more stimulated. You're aware of visual impact, you're aware of the movement, and so the mind is naturally a little bit more stimulated. Please don't worry about it, but I do encourage you to keep coming back. It's helpful, well, I find it's helpful to have as a focus of my awareness the feet touching the ground. And just the feeling of bodily movement, so that I'm aware that I'm walking. That's what I tend to focus on. I also like to break up my walking practice to individual stretches of the path. So if my mind has wandered and I suddenly find I'm somewhere else, then when I get to the end of the path, I re-establish my awareness and I make a determination to try and maintain awareness from one end of the path to the other end of the path. So that's how I do it. But I don't get discouraged if the mind wanders. I like to maximize the benefits of these practices. So if my mind does wander, it's interesting when I'm in Scotland or in England teaching this practice, I often say, well, while you're walking along the path, you may find yourself in India. So that's the example I often use because I love India. But now we can think, well, I might imagine myself in Scotland or in Thailand. But what's interesting to me is that when this happens, you might notice just how incredibly real it is. How incredibly real. I mean, you might find yourself transported back to early childhood. That can often happen. People often talk to me about how they remember things that happened. Sometimes happy things, sometimes sad or difficult things. Sometimes just a fragrance will trigger a memory of being in a garden somewhere when you were very little. So what this does for me is it brings an insight into the brilliance, the extraordinary capacity of the mind to create what isn't there. So this is a very important insight. So rather than feeling terribly discouraged if during walking meditation you suddenly find yourself in Scotland or Thailand or Australia or somewhere else, it's just to marvel at the capacity of the mind to create something that isn't there. Don't get lost there. As soon as you recognize that that you're not here, then come back. Come back. We want to live in the world of reality, not in the world of our imaginings. But it is interesting to see how that can happen so easily. So I suggest we spend 15 minutes or so, maybe 20 minutes if it will give us time to find a place, doing this walking practice. And do we have an arrangement for someone to ring a bell, or should people just keep an eye on their watch for the... We ring the bell. So maybe the bell can be rung at the moment it's 10:15, so the bell could be rung at 25 to 11. And then we can come back and just have a short sitting before we need to prepare for the meal. Does that sound suitable? Okay. And do people know where they can go to walk? Or do you want to explain that?
Walking meditation के लिए second floor पे जा सकते हैं, वहाँ खुला एरिया, वहाँ पे कर सकते हैं. कुछ लोग उनके पैर में तकलीफ या कुछ और प्रॉब्लम्स है तो यहाँ पे कर लीजिए आप fourth floor पे, और कुछ लोग कहाँ हॉल में भी कर सकते हैं.
So in here or downstairs?
And outside.
And outside.
So on the roof.
On the roof? Okay. Well, I think I'm going to keep this as my path this time, but please, I invite you to find a place where you feel like walking. Oh, don't try not to be too close to another person, and definitely don't have your paths crossing over. It can be fun, but it's very distracting. So better to have a single stretch so that you're not disturbing one another. Okay. So then 25 to we'll have the bell. Thank you.